Let's get started right in the software. Once again, I'll be looking at the functionality of the US version of Working Papers for this presentation, and I already have a sample file open and ready to go here. In the US version of CaseWare Working Papers, we must ensure our engagement properties are properly set. So I'm going to go up to the engagement properties, and we can just check these out. Here we need to set the tax jurisdiction to, in my case, USA, and that opens up some other properties available to us. From here, we can then choose our tax entity. Now, Working Papers supports C Corp, S Corp, partnership, and nonprofit tax export codes. In order to populate the columns that are available in the mapping database in a template, it is necessary to select each tax entity once, so the underlying tax code list will be loaded into the mapping database so that we can apply it to the appropriate tax entity columns in the mapping database. So to do that, I'm just going to cycle through these one at a time. There's my C Corp tax codes copying in from my Tax USA database. And from C Corp, I'm going to select S Corp, bring in the S Corp tax codes into the underlying database, partnership tax codes, and my nonprofit tax codes. Now, once completed, I'm going to use the C Corp for my example today, so I'll just switch it back to C Corp. Now, if the tax codes were already set up in the mapping database, when I switch the tax entity, it applies the appropriate tax codes to the tax export code column in the mapping database, and when exiting the engagement properties screen, it would ask if we want to reapply the properties from the mapping database, which would update the tax code assignment to the accounts. Now at this point, I don't have my accounts mapped, and I still need to look at my mapping database to see what's set up in the mapping database. Finally, we need to select the tax software in the engagement properties. So right now I have other set to, for tax vendor, but if you click the drop down beside tax vendor, you can see that we do have a number of different vendors available. When we select the tax software, it's worth noting that if you change your tax software in your office, all you need to do in Working Papers is come here and change the selection under tax vendor. That will automatically update the export tables underlying CaseWare Working Papers, and when you do the tax export, it will build the appropriate export file for you. The export process builds the appropriate export table for the software selection you have made.